you guys? What's going on? It's another day of whatever it is that we're doing.
Just talking about that, crazy ass.
It's Tuesday.
Crazy ass Stephen King movies. There's a lot of shitty Stephen King movies. All right, this is actually a good one. I actually kind of enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I did as well.
It had a good cast. The dude that plays the lead role is the same guy that played the young executive from OCP on RoboCop that had RoboCop.
Miguel Ferrer, yeah.
Yeah, is that his name? Miguel what?
Ferrer.
Ferrer. Okay, yeah. He's
great.
He's also good in the made-for-TV Stand. Stephen King Stand. He's in that. So he carries this movie and does a great job. It's a low-budget flick, but it's a good story. And my only gripe about it is that you can stream it free off of YouTube.
Because somebody uploaded it.
You
can't find it anywhere else, like legally,
and
which is stupid.
And this movie badly needs to be remastered. It's in television aspect ratio instead of theatrical, and this is definitely made for. Maybe it's made for VHS. I don't know.
No, I found out what happened with it because I was wondering that too. I was like, why is this in TV? I said, I know it wasn't made for TV because it's like every other word is fuck and there's like a lot of gore in it.
Yeah.
So I was like, obviously they didn't make this for TV. Initially, this was supposed to get a theatrical release, and it did get a theatrical release in Italy.
Okay.
It was supposed to get one in the U.S., but then I think it was Paramount, or I can't remember like what production company it was, but then they were like, well, we can release it, but it's going to be like a year ahead because their schedule was too crowded. And because the movie was independently financed, the producers of the movie were kind of like, well, we can't make the finance people like wait that long like to release the movie. So what they did was they released it to HBO. Mm-hmm. And then later gave it a theatrical release, like a limited theatrical release, but it didn't do all that well. And I kind of feel like this disappeared, unfortunately, because out of all the Stephen King adaptations that have been made, this is actually like a pretty good one, and you don't really hear a lot of people talking about it.
So theoretically, there is a theatrical version with the original aspect ratio that they could probably.
I'm imagining because this was intended as for a theatrical release, and it did get one.
It needs a remaster. It's got practical effects, but they look good. But they look
K&B, like you know, it's Nicotero in them.
Yeah, it's got good practical effects. But they look very muddy. They're in very low resolution, and the aspect ratio is fucking wrong. But it doesn't really affect the movie when you're watching it for free. You know what I mean? It
didn't really bother me after.
But I wouldn't mind having a Blu-ray special edition release of this. You might be able to find something like that out
Maybe
there.
Arrow or Blue Underground or somebody will get around to it. Like, I don't know what the rights issues is, but you literally can't stream this legally anywhere. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
So, like, somebody uploaded it, I'm assuming illegally on YouTube, so we watched it on there, and it's not great quality. It's like standard definition, but, you know, it's better than not being able to see it at all.
Yeah. The start is a little muddy. So when the movie starts, it seems to be a little bit slow, but it builds up. This is a vampire flick.
Yeah.
And really, this vampire flick can hold its own, especially a vampire flick of the 90s. There were a lot of bad vampire movies of the 90s. So it's actually pretty good. I wouldn't say it's better than Salem's Lot.
Well, different. Salem's Lot was really, really good.
Yeah, Salem's Lot was really good. That made-for-TV Salem's Lot, if you could get it, if you get a good copy of it, it's fun to watch. The tone is a little bit different, okay, in this one. The tone of this one is more kind of like made-for-TV Stand. It kind of felt like that. But the quality was good, and I liked it. It had a lot of good ideas in it. Very Stephen King.
I think what I liked about this, the movie came out in 1997. I think this short story, Stephen King originally wrote it in the late 80s, like 1988 or something like that. And then like later on it was in Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I remember reading the story, but I don't think I ever saw this movie. And if I did, it was a long time ago. I like how they weren't afraid to go like really, really mean-spirited with this.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that Miguel Ferrer, like playing the main character, whose name is Richard Dees, he was just an unashamed dickhead.
I liked him though,
but he was still really compelling. Like, you still wanted to, even though he was just like a horrible person, but he was just so good. I think that's like a testament to the actor, because like he just made you want to watch him, even though he was just like a complete shithead.
Well, you know, that other character that he played from RoboCop was kind of like that. He was kind of a dick, but you rooted for him. You liked him.
Right.
You know?
He plays a lot. He's very good at like.
Real good at that.
Unfortunately, Miguel Ferrer passed away a few years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
2017, yeah.
He wouldn't have been very old.
No, he wasn't. I think he was only in his early 60s, maybe.
Cancer or something, maybe?
I don't know. I don't know what he died of. But yeah, he died like younger than you would expect, which is a real shame.
Yeah, and he always looked older than he actually was. He looked a little bit older than what he was. In RoboCop, you could tell he's one of the younger executives, but I think he's younger than he seems.
Probably.
In that movie. Yeah.
He's a little...
I think he might have only been late 20s.
He's always such a great character actor, though. But like I said, he's really excels in this particular niche of playing just complete unrepentant assholes, but that are still kind of likable. Like, it's still, like, you still want to watch him.
Yeah.
And he just, like, carries this whole fucking movie so much, even though he's, like, a horrible, horrible person. Like, I don't think he has a single redeeming quality. But he's still, like, really, really entertaining. I mean, the whole point of the movie is they're drawing a parallel between him being, like, because he works for a tabloid, being, like, a bloodsucker, taking advantage of, you know, people, and, like, a literal bloodsucker, you know what I mean? So... They hit that a little bit hard. I mean, there was one kind of really, really funny line where his editor is, like, talking about the serial killer who's a vampire. And he's like, God, I hope he kills more people. And it's just like, that just made me, like, laugh out loud.
Yeah, and the magazine they work for is, like, Sub-National Enquirer. It's like The Star.
Yeah, because even like National Enquirer and stuff, like, I mean, I don't know, I haven't read it in a long time, but they wouldn't print like most of the stuff that because in this movie they kind of show Richard Dees going around like taking pictures of like mangled bodies like in car accidents and shit like that.
I don't even think even the Star did that.
And I don't even think the Star did that. It's like the closest they ever got that I saw was, you know, they take pictures of like, Elvis in his coffin or something like that. But as far as I know, I mean, you guys, I don't know, I'm not an expert. But as far as I know, they would have balked at like...
Yeah, nothing in America was like that. And I was a kid out in California, growing up in the L.A. area, out in Carson. They'd have little newsstands outside the dollar stores with the Mexican newspapers that were like tabloids, and they would have fucking
I've seen them in other countries.
In other countries,
but I don't think I've ever seen it in the U.S. like at an American.
We'd be looking through there, tripping out. Oh man, look, his head's cut off. It would freak us out when we were kids. Yeah.
But so this movie kind of like posits. Oh, and you know what? Fun fact. Remember how you were saying before, like about all the Stephen King stories being like interrelated?
Yeah.
Thank you, Trey. Great
Trey?
movie, still kicking butt, guys. Thank you very much. That's very nice of you. Yeah. This character, Richard Dees, the journalist, first turned up in Stephen King's novel, The Dead Zone. Okay. He was in one scene where he goes to Johnny Smith and wants to interview him about his psychic powers and shit, and Johnny Smith tells him to fuck off. And so I guess Stephen King kind of liked that character so much that character was kind of like in the back of his mind. Yeah. So he decided to write a short story that was just based around that particular character.
Yeah, Stephen King, he invented the extended universe, man. This MCU shit, man, they're copying King. King fucking came up with that shit first. And there's a good fan video on YouTube of somebody who has read all of his books and interconnected them all. And there's a huge flow chart of what connects to what. And he proves it. He shows you where it's mentioned and this and that. And out of them all, there's like only one that doesn't seem to reference any of the other ones. But it doesn't exclude them. It's just that there isn't any other references.
Right.
It's the same universe. Anything that Stephen King writes is happening pretty much in the same universe. And if it's not in the same universe, it's in a parallel dimension.
Right.
But it's still in this universe. Like Gunslinger stuff, it's parallel universe. But it talks about this universe too. And I think even the Peter Straub King Talisman is in the same universe. Even though it's happening in another dimensions, some of it. Even Peter Straub, I think, is in the Stephen King universe, basically. His writings. Or at least
I guess so.
in that book.
Yeah.
His
Well,
writings
like I
in
said,
that
they
book.
did two. They did
They did
Talisman,
too?
and then they did a sequel. I think it was called The Black House.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Man, I didn't read it. I'd probably like it.
You probably would. Yeah, you should probably get around to that. Although, to be honest, if I was going to do that, I'd have to read The Talisman again because it was so long ago that I read
Talisman
it.
was awesome. They'd make an awesome made-for-TV series. They'd make an awesome
Yeah, I don't think
miniseries
they've
for
ever adapted The
Netflix.
Talisman, have they? I mean,
was great.
they've adapted everything else.
Yeah. It was a fucking horror road trip movie, basically.
Yeah.
2 kids. One of them was a fucking werewolf in another dimension. In this dimension, he's not a werewolf, but in the dimension he comes from, he is.
I am also a werewolf in another
Yeah.
dimension. In my mind.
They're trying to walk across the country, and they're making leaps into another dimension as they're going to try to find his talisman. It's a good story.
Yeah, I should probably. I kind of feel like that's another one that I wanted to like reread because when I
Yeah.
read it before, I'm not as super into like fantasy as much as I like just like straight up horror shit. So I kind of feel like because that was more fantasy based, I
Yeah.
didn't get quite as into it.
I loved it as a kid.
Yeah,
And-
because you like a lot more fantasy and sci-fi stuff. I'm more like a straight horror. Girl.
Yeah, as long as it has some kind of fucking horror type shit in it. But I like sci-fi fantasy. I mean, it was good. In this universe, it's the same. But whenever they would jump into the parallel dimension, they had to drink a potion to do it. But then it turned out that it wasn't a potion. They could do it with their minds. You needed that as a crutch. And you could leap into the other dimension, and whatever was here, there was another version of it on the other side. And it was like a dark, evil version of it.
So see, I think where Stranger Things got the idea for the Upside Down, which
Yeah.
is kind of like the same thing. It's like a flip side of the
Yeah.
universe. It's like darker.
Yeah.
I mean, because Stranger Things is very, very influenced by
Yeah, like
Stephen King.
Like there was a boarding school for kids in this universe. On the other universe, it was a damn open pit mine where they had all these kids enslaved, like demonic kids enslaved, and they were going down and they were mining some kind of fucking metal or something to make weapons with, and it was like a real hellish. There was demons and shit. It was basically the mouth to hell, or one of them. So there was always something different in the other universe.
Yeah, like
It
I
was
said,
related.
that's where,
Kind of.
like I said, if you watch Stranger Things, there's a thing like
Yeah.
a flip side dimension that's called the Upside Down, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like a similar type of thing.
Well, I guess in the Upside Down and in the Talisman, it's the spiritual truth behind what it is a lot of the times, like the dark side of it. Like if it's a bad place here, it's even worse somewhere else.
Yeah, that's similar.
Yeah, it's like
It's
I said,
similar.
Yeah.
Danny Rowling said, "Did they ever explain the deal with the dirt under Dwight's plane?" I thought
Casket.
Well, because when Richard gets into the plane, like into the vampire's plane, and there's like a pile of dirt that's all maggoty and shit, I thought it was like a callback to, vampires have to sleep in their native
Yeah.
earth type deal.
Yeah.
And I thought that just some of it had leaked out, like underneath the bottom. That's what I thought.
They're talking about Dracula's casket on the ship. That's what they're referring to.
Yeah.
He had to take his own. He had to take the soil in which he was born with.
Yeah, you got to sleep in the dirt.
Got to sleep in that.
Which seems like a giant pain in the ass.
So he probably had some either dirt in the plane or the casket from the dirt that was inside the casket that he unloaded from the plane. Some of it fell out. Something like that.
Because there was dirt in the plane,
There was
right?
dirt.
Because
Maybe
I'm
he
pretty.
just slept in a plane.
That's what I thought. Like he
Right.
just like slept in the plane.
Slept in the plane in a pile of dirt.
Yeah, because there wasn't. I didn't even
Yeah.
see a casket in there. I think it was
Okay.
just like a pile of dirt, like
Yeah.
with maggots and stuff in
Yeah.
it. So I guess he just slept in the back of the plane.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you haven't seen this, it's actually the short story. I think is only 40 pages long. So obviously that's not really long enough, like for a feature length movie. So they had to add some shit. So the character, kind of like the rookie reporter lady, they added that character to just have somebody for Richard Dees to like, kind of play off of, because she was kind of like the young, naive rookie reporter, and she was like real ambitious, and she wanted this story, and then, you know what I mean? So, and then like her, also the end is different, because the end of the short story, I think like the vampire lets Richard go, but none of the stuff that happens in the movie, like all the real fucked up shit that happens at the end, none of that happens at the end of the story. So the movie went way darker, like, and way more cynical, which I liked. I liked that very much.
The premise of the movie is that there's a damn vampire flying around from airport to airport in this pretty cool looking and kind of sinister black propeller plane, little private airplane. It's got a push prop and a puller prop on it. I don't know what kind it is, and an H tail.
They say what kind it is.
They said what it was. I forgot what kind it was.
I gotta look.
You could buy it. It was just a civilian aircraft, and it was painted like matte black, semi-matte black
with red stripes on it.
Yeah, and he'd fly in on that, and then he'd take over, go to the tower, and fucking mesmerize people and turn them into his thralls, so they wouldn't call the FFA on him, because the FFA was looking for him, because wherever he landed, people died, so they knew about that aircraft. But he had mind control, and then he'd blend in with the population and start killing people, eating them and stuff. He didn't just put holes in them, man. Sometimes he tore their throats out and did all kinds of stuff. When these newspaper reporters are trying to make a buck off of it and take photographs and figure out where he's going to strike next and tell stories, and that's the premise of the story.
I mean, and the thing is, at first, obviously they don't think it's a real vampire. They just think it's like a guy that's a serial killer that thinks that he's a vampire. They're like, because he registers under the name Dwight Renfield, they're like, oh, haha, like, very funny. Like, Renfield, the character from Dracula, and Dwight being a reference to Dwight Frye, like the actor that played Renfield in the 1931 Bela Lugosi version of Dracula. So, and him wearing the cape and everything like that. So they just think it's a serial killer, like, fucking around. But then, like, as the story goes on, spoiler alert, it's actually, like, it's a real vampire.
Yeah.
So, and then I kind of like, I know that the original short story didn't have the other, like, the girl, that was the other reporter, like, that he calls Jimmy, because he'll like Jimmy Olsen. But I like that addition because it really, like I said, gave Richard something to play off of. And also there's like a competition because the editor of the Inside View, which is the name of the tabloid that they work for.
It's called a Cessna Skymaster. Okay,
that's right. I thought I had written it down, but I guess I didn't.
Yeah.
But he like pits them against one another, like to see, I don't know, I guess because he just thinks it's funny or he thinks it'll make like good copy or something like that. But I just really like the cynical way that this ended, you know what I mean? And I love like the last sequence, like when they go to that airfield, like at the end, and all the people in the airport are dead, and then like he runs into the vampire like in the bathroom. And then he comes out and like the vampire like gives him some of his blood, and then everything goes like real creepy and like black and white.
He takes you into his world.
Yeah, and like all the people get up like zombies and shit like that. And I was like, that was such a great. It was like so creepy, like with all the fog and everything like that.
He's got mind control and stuff, and you're not really sure what he actually looks like. He can look like a handsome Dracula dude with the damn cape, with the collar on it. Walking and it looks like a damn bat wing in the wind. He can look like that, or he can look like just a horrible damn demon with a huge mouth with that damn cape on. You don't really know what he looks like. He's controlling how you see him. It's an illusion, I guess.
Yeah, because really, they don't show him, and I think that was like a good choice because I thought it was like really creepy. Like you only kind of see him from far away, like with the cape like flowing out behind him and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you kind of see him and he looks sort of normal, but then like at the very very end, like during that great airport sequence where Richard is just like, let me see your face. And that's the first time that you get to see him, and then you see that great fucking like he's all fucked up with that big mouth and that big fucking tooth in there and shit. Yeah. And it was just like such a great reveal.
But you don't know if that's the way he really looks or not. He's got mind control. He can cast illusions, so you don't know if that's the way he really looks. I don't know if he actually had a cape. That cape looked sick as fuck. I don't know if he actually had that or he made you see that. For all you know, he might have just been fucking a naked, ugly ass corpse. He might not have even looked that strong. But when he unveiled himself in that time, he looked like Dracula. Like imagine if Dracula was the devil or something, just a big fucking like pumpkin head with fucking huge fangs, just one big fang that came out and a bunch of other little ones. But I think it was all a glamour, what they would call in
occult circles.
In occult circles. That it's an illusion that it's being forced on you. That's how you're being forced to see it. Because it was all, then he becomes pretty boy all of a sudden. No. He didn't look like any of that, I don't think.
Maybe he just showed Richard that because he wanted to like make him regret that he had asked to see his face.
He says, "I'm gonna take you to hell."
Yeah.
So I think it could appear any way it wanted. It probably didn't look like any of that. It probably looked like a damn rotten corpse. Because there was worms in the ground that it slept.
Yeah, in the dirt.
Yeah, and I don't think clothing could have survived living in that dirt with all that putrid shit. So it was probably nude. And just a fucking skinny ass fucking corpse.
Going.
Yeah, strong, with mind control, and if it forced any blood into your mouth, that was a wrap. You were now in a world of hell, where you couldn't see reality.
Well, I mean, spoiler alert, like, Richard didn't last too long after he saw that, though. Yeah. Which, like I said, is not how the original story ended. I think, like, the original story, he got away, but he was just like, maybe he learned something along the way about being such a shitty, like, tabloid reporter, like, because he actually saw the thing and he saw, like, how fucked up everything was. But at the end of the movie, they made it like he killed all those people. Yeah. Or they made it look like he killed all those people, like, with an axe, so, like, the cops shot him. And then I thought like, the cherry on top of it was, like, the younger, like, Jimmy Olsen woman coming in and being all fucking cynical and just taking a picture of him and then, like, ruining his reputation posthumously by saying, yeah, he was the killer all along, and putting him on the cover of the fucking... I was like, that was so great. It's one of the, like, most cynical endings of a movie I've ever seen, and I was totally there for it. He had some good abilities, man. He had fucking mental dominion. He could dominate people effortlessly. He could get federal agents not to report him and protect him. He could get old ladies to want to sacrifice, to fall in love with him and give up their lives for him. Yeah, that old lady went and got her hair done and all kind of stuff so she would look all pretty.
Dead during the time that he'd fucking kill her, bite her, and drink all her blood and shit. He could just mentally dominate people.
Well, she was dead and she was just laying there in the bed like she was all happy and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that was his job. His job was to go around fucking eating people, sucking people's blood.
Through big holes in their necks.
Yeah, he did it by any means
pulling
necessary.
Their heads off and whatnot.
Yeah, making them want it, or making dudes protect him, and then he could make dudes see hell, and he could punish you too, you know.
You know what's interesting is that, Stephen King actually really, really liked this adaptation. And because they thought it was going to do much better than it did, which it didn't, sadly, they were actually, Stephen King and the screenwriter of this, they had actually planned to do a sequel, which I think was supposed to be called Fear of Flying. And it was going to go, like, into, like, a little bit of the origin story of Dwight and kind of like follow the other, like, the younger reporter, and that would have actually been cool. But because this movie only made, like, in its theatrical release, even though it was limited, I think it made like $100,000 or something like that.
You could remaster this Blu-ray edition, re-release it, and I think it'd do okay. Because there's a lot of Stephen King fans.
Yeah, and honestly, this is one of the better...
Yeah, it's one of the better ones.
...adaptations. Like I said, it's probably not, like, A tier, but it's a lot better than...
I'll put it at B minus tier.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking it's, like, in the B tier.
Yeah, in the B area. Yeah. And it's entertaining. It's an entertaining movie. And it's got some good ideas in it. It's just that when you see the free YouTube version, you're looking at television aspect ratio and low resolution that makes it look cheap. It didn't look that way in a theatrical release, I guarantee you. In a higher resolution, it probably looked pretty good. Because from what I could see, the practical effects were good.
Well, like I said, that's KNB. They're like top of the line, you know?
And the acting was good. The acting was good. It achieved the tone that they were looking for. Which it wasn't the same tone as, say, like Salem's Lot. More like the tone from the Stand television series, or like that.
It kind of leans almost toward black comedy.
Yeah,
I want to say, like, it had some of the, because like I said, they were trying to make kind of a point about tabloid reporters being like vampires too, like, you know what I mean, or being ghouls in a way.
Yeah.
So they were trying to draw that parallel, but I Yeah, I don't want to go too far in that direction saying it's like, oh, it's like a black comedy. It's not, but it has like aspects of that.
Yeah.
Like it has kind of like...
It's supposed to be a fun horror movie that it has an edge to it. That is a vampire movie with elements of slasher, elements of, serial killer type movie. It's just a good entertaining flick.
It has a little bit of a noir vibe to it too, like because it's kind of like an investigation, like a detective.
Yeah,
because that's pretty much. I mean, you know that the guy's a vampire, like pretty much the whole time, but you're kind of following Richard and to a lesser extent like the younger reporter while they're like on the trail and they're like investigating, like trying to figure out where he went and like what his deal is and shit like that. So it has like a detective story aspect to it too, which I thought was really interesting. And like you said, it's kind of like it's a little bit of an original take, I feel like, on the vampire mythos, even though it's also like kind of classic at the same time.
Yeah, I'd put it there in terms of like appeal and overall enjoyability. I'd probably put it there with like Firestarter, the old Firestarter, that level. The tone's very different, but in terms of just overall enjoyment, when you watch about like Firestarter, I think it's technically better than Firestarter.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I might like it a little bit better.
Probably like on par with like Dead Zone in terms of appeal. Although, man, Christopher Walken's hard act to follow. But still, it's just a good one. What would you say that it was most like?
See, I want to say it came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was definitely one of the best ones from the 90s.
Yeah, I would say.
At least like in the kind of lower budget tier. Because like I said, they did some like Graveyard Shift and The Mangler, which were like not really that great. This is definitely several steps up from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was trying to put it more with like some of the classics that I like.
Yeah.
It's a modern tone. It's a different tone. But in terms of just like overall appeal and watchability, I think it was as good as the Firestarter and Dead Zone. It's a different movie, very much so.
Yeah, because I feel like those two were more like serious, whereas this one is kind of like I said, it's not funny necessarily, but it has like black humor to it.
Yeah, it's man,
and it's much gorier. And Danny Rowling said sort of like Needful Things, but with a vampire, kind of. Yeah, similar. I think I like this a little bit better than Needful Things.
Yeah,
I do like Needful Things, but I think this was
I like it better than Silver Bullet, actually. And it might be kind of more closer to... No, it's darker than Silver Bullet.
It is way darker than Silver Bullet. Silver Bullet is fun, is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This one, like I said, the thing that I liked the most about this one, other than like just Miguel Ferrer, like his whole thing,
he carries the movie.
He really does. I just really, really liked how mean spirited this was, because you don't really see a lot of movies like that. So I thought it was like really ballsy.
This is the biggest role I've seen this dude do. This is his movie, basically. Mm-hmm. He runs that shit, and he does a good job, man. He's really good in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely like fucking. Like you said, he just carries it.
Yeah, he carries this whole fucking
He's
movie.
easily like the reason to watch it. And he is just such a dick, and it's just like, it's delightful.
He's starring in this movie, and normally he does not star in a movie, that actor. Normally he's a supporting actor.
This is really kind of like the lead role.
Yeah,
and
he's
you
the
didn't
lead.
Unfortunately, you didn't see him in a lot of lead roles, which is kind of sad because he kicked ass. But
yeah, he did good on it.
But yeah, this is really one of the
You're rooting for this guy, and he's a dick, and he didn't make it. He didn't make it.
No, he doesn't make it. Like I said, in the original story he did, but here not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really, really liked it. So I really appreciate you guys like recommending it, because I mean, I'm sure we would have got around to it eventually, because I like to see all this.
Well, we'll eventually get around to everything eventually.
Well, that's what
we gotta
I'm
have
saying.
people pointing us in the right direction, and we'll go look. We got regular listeners that point shit out. We go, okay, we take their advice, and you guys come through a lot of times. I remember this movie very vaguely in the late 90s, very vaguely. I remember that vampire, that head, or that vampire. I remembered that, but I don't know where I saw it.
Well, one thing Danny Rowling was saying, this is one of the the cover of it, like the VHS cover was like really really iconic. Like you'd see it in Blockbuster all the time.
Maybe that's where I saw
But
it.
I'm gonna say, like, I looked when I was doing the card for this, and I saw like the cover of the VHS, and I was like, I think it might have been better if you hadn't revealed the monster on the cover, because that was what was so great in the build-up of the movie, is like you didn't really see the monster until like the very end. Like you just saw him from far away and he sort of looked normal. You saw kind of that real distinctive looking cape, like where the top came up and it was like a little bit like curved, like it was bat wings or something. So I mean, there were some shots of it was like really creepy where he's like coming through the fog, like at the airport and everything. And I thought that was really good. That was like really well done, the way they built it up. And then they didn't show like the fucking big monster face like until the end. And I thought that was like a really good moment. Like that was a really good reveal. So when you put the monster, like slap the monster face, like right on the poster, right on the VHS, you're kind of ruining it a little bit. Like I get why they do it, because you do want, you know, the cover to be impactful, because you'd be like, oh yeah, shit, I want to see that movie. But then on the other hand, it kind of ruins the experience of watching the movie too. So it's kind of like, I don't know.
It badly needs a re-release.
It does.
In Blu-ray.
Well, it needs any release.
Yeah, it needs a Blu-ray release with a better cover on it. And you know what I mean? Sell that, advertise that shit. And with some of these damn Stephen King heavy fan circles, you know, online, you'd sell some of this. I think, you know, shit, I bought Dagon. I bought the Blu-ray release of Dagon. Fucking love it. I would do like that kind of treatment.
And the thing about it is that Dagon, I feel like that might even be lesser known than this movie.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Because every single person I've asked, well, I mean, not you guys, but like every single person that I've asked, even people that like horror, I'm like, hey, have you ever seen Dagon? They don't know the fuck I'm talking
Dagon's a great movie.
And I love Dagon.
Great movie.
But but I mean, and Stephen King is like kind of bigger, you know, because there's more adaptations of his stuff than there are of like H.P. Lovecraft stuff, which, you know, I know why that is, because it's harder to adapt H.P. Lovecraft stuff. But yeah, this is definitely one that kind of needs more love, I feel like. It's really kind of a shame that it's not like streaming anywhere like in HD. So, you know, hopefully like I said, Arrow or Blue Underground or one of those companies that kind of rescue these types of movies from obscurity, I think this would be a good one for them to do. I don't know like how the rights are working out and everything like that, but
sometimes these movies get hung up on things like rights and you'll never see them.
That's what I'm saying, and that's kind of a shame.